Hello, I'm Daniel Shin, and welcome to Discussion with the Dean on Christianity and Law. So today's lecture comes at a very interesting time, a very good time, because it's soon Easter. So could you tell us a little bit about the importance of how you tied in Easter with today's contents of the lecture?
Yes. So we don't think about Easter, the resurrection of Jesus Christ, as having a practical lesson for us very much. But today we're looking at the way Jesus is engaged in counseling people. And a theme of these lectures in that regard has been that the basic work of counsel is to connect what is right to do, what is righteous, what is faithful to God, what is merciful to man, with what's practical. Because sometimes these things seem to go in opposite directions. Should I tell a lie? I know I shouldn't do that, but if I don't lie, I'll get in trouble. So what is righteous and what is practical go in opposite directions. And a central point of the resurrection is that our Father in heaven, if we are faithful to Him, He will preserve us through death, through suffering, through anything. The resurrection stands, among other things, in addition to our salvation, it stands for the unity of righteousness and faithfulness to God with practicality. And so the spirit of a Christian counselor is the spirit of faith in the resurrection. And when we give people counsel in a way that draws these things together, we are testifying to the unity of what is good and what is practical, and helping people who have problems seeing that to overcome that.
I remember from a couple lectures before that we had a similar conversation about counseling, and at the time the contents of the lecture seemed to point to a dichotomy between what is right and what is practical, whereas today it was more about the unity between the two. So could you expand a little bit more on what the similarities or the differences might be in this situation and in terms of what it was, what you talked about a couple weeks ago?
Right. So the challenge of giving good counsel to people, good advice to people, in many contexts, is that there seems to be a great divide. And so some people will say, I don't care about what's right, I just want to do what's useful for me. Or they'll say, I know what's right, but I can't afford to do it. And that's a fundamental human fact. We either ignore the good and the right and faithfulness to God, or we find a conflict. But today we were really looking at the fact that seeing these things together and understanding that what is righteous is practical. And so Jesus makes this argument. He says, consider a case of somebody who's going to go to court and who's going to lose, and he's going to get thrown in jail. And he has the opportunity to settle, but he doesn't. And why doesn't he do that? Why can't he see what is right to do? And he tells this parable in two different contexts, one of anger, unforgiveness, and one of the coming judgment of the world. But in both cases, he's saying people who focus on practicalities without the orientation and anchor of righteousness and mercy and faithfulness to God, they're blind to something. It's impractical. It's impractical not to focus on what is good and righteous and just. And he gives a very practical example of it. Mm-hmm. And so I think more of the theme in this lecture was God has made these things so that what is good is practical. It takes some faith to understand that. It takes some counseling to get you to see those things, but that's what Jesus does for us, and that's what he wants us to do for others.
Well, thank you for that wonderful summary. If you're interested in the full lecture, please follow our YouTube and subscribe, and you can get the full lecture for today's topic. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Daniel.
Thank you.